from first slides. Okay, mobile contesting, I enjoy it. Before I want to get going, I just want to share one other thing here. I fear we have a bunch of tech nerds in the bunch. Myself, I'm coming on 50 years since I became an official tech nerd, getting a double E degree from W8EDU, also known as Case Western Reserve University. But it's only recently I realized just how important double E is to the world. Came to my attention when my daughter got me a Beer of the Month Club subscription for Christmas. And along about April, one of the selection shows up here. Now, obviously, entropic theory, that sounds tech nerdy enough. But when we turned the can, we said, okay, there must have been a double E involved in this beer can. So we said, okay, it sounds good. So, and more on that, and then turn another 90 degrees and tap in, grow, connect, give a flux. It's only after this got me thinking just how important double E's are to the world, because you can't have beer without a double E. So anyway, on to mobile contesting. I enjoy beer, I enjoy mobile contesting, just do not mix the two, please.
Can't have a double E without beer.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, mobile radio has been going on longer than we might have imagined. 102 years ago, came out this article in Wireless Age about just a power supply for a mobile radio of some sort. I don't know what the radio was, but is a power pack designed for military use. Obviously, not the fastest mobile travel in the world. You probably couldn't cover a lot of counties with this, but whatever it was, it must have done something. Actually, another interesting topic, the bigger subheadline here about the new and powerful wireless company also has an interesting ham radio connection. Turns out that the Marconi company in England and General Electric in the United States got together and formed a new company called the Radio Corporation of America, RCA. Anyway, what is mobile contesting? Well, it's my explanation to the people I ran into. It's a ham radio road rally, which I think is pretty apt. But it's basically a station that you can operate while in motion, but you don't have to be moving, just so you could pack up and move if you had to. So portable antennas, mobile power supplies, etc. Come on. Primarily state QSO parties. There is a Class C mobile and field day, which is not a big aspect of field day. But you can also operate mobile doing other contests. If you're stuck on a long drive, preferably have someone to drive with you. It can while away the time while you do something more than watch the billboards go by. It is a CW-oriented event. As you expect, mobile signals are not terribly strong, and CW cuts the mustard a lot better when you're not very loud. And it does have skills and equipments that if an emergency came up, if you can quickly deploy and get out there and operate under difficult conditions, that's a useful service from the ham radio community. So why do you do it? Well, it is a good state-centered event. Sort of as mentioned earlier, and there's clubs and so on around the state that get together and do something to put Ohio or whatever it is in the focus. California being a big state might not be quite so an issue or a feature, but for what it's worth. I think it's one of the best ways to introduce people to contesting. If you're out of state, it's a low-key contest. I admit the pileups on mobiles can get pretty intense, but it's low-key and people are not going to be intimidated. If you're in the state and suddenly you realize that, hey, I'm in a county that people actually want, I'm a multiplier, it's a interesting new thrill. Can have great rates. In the past Ohio QSO party last August, I had 12 hours. There were only 2 hours under 100 per hour. The last hour, which was the best, was 167 hour, of which most of it was actually on 80 meters CW, some on 40 meters. But it could be a candidate for records of the best, most QSOs per hour per wavelength of antenna. You do get to be a rare multiplier. Getting on and passing out Ohio or California can be pretty boring, but you say, hi, I'm in Shasta County or I'm in Monroe County, Ohio, that you got to understand that people do appreciate that you're being there. You do make the county hunters happy, and they're very good. They have their mobile reply cards. They'll fill it all out for you, send it to you. And if the SASC, you just sign the name and send it back, and it's very easy QSLing. And once in a while, you get to really escape the noise, to get out away from the grid, away from civilization, park, turn off the car. It can be amazing just how quiet the bands can be. Unfortunately, you'll spend a lot more time listening to just how noisy the power lines of America can be, but hey, that's life. Most of them are one-day events, which I think is for most states is the appropriate number. 2 days, I think many cases stretching it. Again, I understand California is a big state and a different situation. Most of those that are 2-day events at least give you 10 hours or so off between times so you can sleep and be sort of a normal human being in amongst it all. And most delightfully, you actually get out and get to see the sights of America. I got my start in the 2000 Michigan QSO Party. In 1999, the Madrid Radio Club resurrected the Michigan QSO Party after several years being off the air. Listening around, I sound like these mobile guys were having a lot of fun, so I got hooked up for 2000 with Ron Majewski, W8RU. I drove up to Michigan and drove around in his car, just setting up in the back of his minivan. Went back to work the following week, and my good friend Jim W8DRZ says, "What did you do last weekend?" And I said, "Oh, I was out driving around Michigan making QSOs." He says, "Why didn't you invite me?" I said, "Well, first of all, I don't have a mobile station. Secondly, I didn't know you're interested. But in August coming up here, we have the first Ohio QSO Party." And so he said, "We're on." So I went to Dayton, bought some mobile antennas and so on. And Jim and I set out for 8 years. We every year did the Michigan Party, the Ohio, a number of years did Pennsylvania, 1 year we made it to West Virginia, 1 year we made it to Indiana. This is one of the earlier setups, not the earliest. The very earliest was just ham sticks. By this point, I'd gotten the 3 resonator hustler system in the back. And this is the first setup. Got to build a shelf to put the radio on in between the 2 front seats. Got a piece of plywood to kind of rest between that and the armrest. It doesn't show real well, but just to the right of the computer, I have a little K9LU paddle. It's a little magnetic mount thing. And it worked well. It was quite comfortable and all that. I decided after a few times with this, though, that if there was ever an airbag deployment, my widow would have a hard time explaining why her husband is so stupid. So we relocated to the back seat. And this is where we've been doing it ever since. Basic setup here. This is the center of the station, the shelf with to hold the radio, a couple notches on the side where the straps to hold the radio go through, a couple of little trays there to hold various keys, cell phones, combs, whatever. A cup holder, very important right there. On the right side, I have the arm sticking out, which then uses to support the computer stand, which is sort of a monopod. Again, does not show up real well here, but I have like 4 strips of wood on either side just to keep the computer in place. And that fender washer, which I actually now use a 4x4 box cover. That's what holds the magnet mount down. Install in the car, secure the radio with slings and carabiners and so on. And then I also secure the whole thing to the car itself. So if there's ever a serious collision, whatever, we don't have all those tables full of radios rolling around, causing even more damage. This is the current setup with the current car. It's basically a 4 resonator hustler system in the back for 80 CW, 40, 20, and 15. The ham stick in the front is for 75-meter sideband, which is a very difficult band, but when you're, especially with nearby or in-state multipliers on sideband, it's a necessary thing you kind of put up with and hope you don't have to use too much. The antenna being a top heavy thing, of course, we have a guide with the ropes going to the front, but we then also have this little PVC pipe structure to give it sideways and stability to the front. So when you're braking, it doesn't go crashing down upon you. The front part is glued into the center PVC attachment. The 2 to the side are not, just to give you some adjustment flexibility. But then I run a piece of rope up through those 2 side pieces and tie them on each side. So if it ever came apart, we're not leaving parts dragging along the road and otherwise losing the device to hold the antenna on. K9YC hopefully will approve. I've got a couple of mixed 31 toroids here with wrapped around there. Hopefully it'll keep the RF back from getting into the stuff inside the electronics and keep some of the noise likewise from getting in. The wire coming off to the right is a ground wire, which attaches. I've got attachment, a little hole drilled underneath the back tailgate lift. If you can fit it in, having a ladder is nice in case you ever have to do any adjustments on the roof. A lot easier than trying to climb up to the car. Usually it's a minivan. 1 year, we'll call you later. I was between minivans, so we kind of downsized into a Honda Fit. It was a cozy car. Actually, the biggest problem was that it has no roof rack, so trying to get everything squeezed on there was a challenge, but somehow we made do. Actually, the most interesting problem with the car, it suffered from electric power steering interference. Anytime you touch the steering wheel just slightly, you'd have about 10 seconds of coming through. I tried to talk to drivers saying, hey, there's a weak one, John. Now, can you stop steering? But we decided that it was not going to work out very well. So anyway, so I say it was very cozy in the back seat, but we built a little tripod, or not monopod rather, to hold the computer, and built a little angled shelf to hold the radio. Again,
Jim,
with this. Again, with
Jim, one comment on the
yes.
On that 75-meter mag mount.
Yes.
All of our verticals on vehicles use the body of the car as a counterpoise.
Yes.
But for that band, and they in general depend on capacitive coupling on all bands,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Well, on that band, there ain't much capacitance. So doing what you did with the ground wire to tie it to the frame is a very good thing. And the other thing I've run into is finding the chassis on a modern car can be very difficult because of all of the paint.
Yeah, well, like I say, my van's a 2007, so I have take liberties with it. I might not do with a new car, but anyway, so I built this little angled shelf up, and again with the straps to hold the radio on. I've got the rope again running through there. In this case, this is a Honda Fit. The other seat folds down, but I've got the rope around that seat again, just in case there's ever an accident, that this whole thing is not flying around, causing more damage than we already had. And this shelf will show up later in another situation, so be more to come. And like I say, then I have a little hook there and the nut on the other side that you don't see to adjust the tightness holding it down. Then this is the shelf for the computer. Basically a monopod on the right side. It's cut to fit the armrest, and the little block there again to fit the armrest, and then with the radio, of course, off the other side. In this particular car, we have a map pocket on the front seat in front of me, so I put a piece of wood in there with an adjustable thing to give it a little front and back stability. And this is the view from the back seat. Actually, one of the very few views of my wife driving for me. She does not like to drive, let alone drive for radio purposes, but we have a daughter who lives in Montclair, New Jersey. So a couple times we decided, it'd be a good weekend to go out there the second weekend of October, which happens to be the Pennsylvania QSO party. So make some contacts while driving across Interstate 80, which can be a pretty boring drive otherwise. One item here, if you don't have anybody sitting in the front seat, do take off the headrest. It makes your view much more pleasant. So where to? Route planning. Well, first you want to try to get to as many counties as you can. Every time you're in a new county, you're a new person, and makes for big pileups and so on. You want to get the rare ones on the air. Not much point in organizing a mobile effort through Santa Clara County, but if you can get to Shasta County and find a place where you can get out from the mountains, it's much more interesting. What I call the fly-through versus the zigzag approach. The fly-through, you sort of get on a road and drive like crazy in a straight line. The zigzag, you kind of go down, maybe cut a back road, cut across a few miles, get to a different county, go a few miles through there, zig back through another county, and so on and so forth. Like I say, it's geographically dependent. Certain states, I'm sure California is not terribly conducive to zigging and zagging, but places like Ohio, Michigan, it does work out well. You want to coordinate with others, both fixed and mobile, so you do get counties on the air and don't miss something that you could have otherwise had on the air. And generally speaking, trying to do the back roads in the daytime and main highways at the night, just much less chance of getting lost, fewer drunks to be worried about pulling out of the bar along the way, and so on and so forth. And if you're going through a county early in the day, by the end of the day, the propagations has changed. And in effect, for a lot of people, it would be a new station on that county. And certainly you're at least on a different band where you've worked before on the different band, you're still new QSO. For planning, I like the state highway maps. I find them are generally better than the AAA ones in that they tend to mark the county lines a lot better. AAA, not so much. And they also have a nice gradation of acceptable roads. There's obviously the state highways here in the red are going to be good roads. If you get down into the really granular level, there are lots of roads, but generally speaking, my experience, the ones that rate a gray line on a state map are generally pretty reasonable roads to drive on. Because you do get the choice, you get good roads and you get not so good roads, and you want to get the former. Another use for maps, I was sitting in the Florida QSO party park one day looking at the sun beating on the K3. I said, I don't know what the over temperature shutoff is in a K3, but I think it would use a little bit of shade. I've yet to find a good cell phone application to shade a radio. The Dorlorme Street Atlas is a very convenient thing if you're going to be doing, especially on back roads, because quite often it seems if you're really in the boondocks, that's where your cell phone doesn't have coverage. Unfortunately, I understand these are no longer readily available, so to find one, you really have to go on the eBays or whatever the world to come up with them. A very useful map are the Census Bureau maps. Census.gov has them. They're called the state-based county outline maps. And actually maybe more useful perhaps if you're operating from home, chasing people out of state. It gives you an idea what the counties are, kind of if a mobile's in whatever county where he may be going to next, and so on and so forth. The Google, of course, the mapping software is also quite useful, and especially the Street View part. It gives you an idea whether a road is some big, heavily commercially commercial road or out in the middle of nowhere type road. One other interesting thing that was quite useful here, that little green thing sticking up on the right is a county line sign. Now, this is in Florida where county line QSOs are counted as 2 QSOs. I end up not going to this part of the state, but had I gone there, I would not have stopped here to operate. I figured it'd not be a good thing to be sitting parked alongside the road in a car full of computers and radios across the street from a prison. Anyway, some things to watch for. Construction, obviously, checking ahead on highway departments, things for major construction projects that might get you detoured. Trees, another thing that with a antenna, not terribly strong antenna sticking 13 feet or so above the roadway, it doesn't take much of a tree to cause trouble. My experience here has been that any road that routinely gets semi-truck traffic is going to be okay. If you're on any road that does not, be careful, have your driver be careful to take it slow or avoid those trees over the road. And one other thing, we once upon a time up in Middle Michigan had a non-radio contact with a deer. Saw several of them crossing the road quite a ways ahead. We'd slowed down from 60 down to 40 or so, at which point the last one, the crowd tried to make it across the street and didn't. Fortunately, we were able to it was about 5-6 hours from home back in Cleveland. Fortunately, we were able to make it back home and didn't have to have tow trucks or anything else involved. Another view of the Bambi contact. I have the good fortune, what I've so far is what I would call the northern setup, Ohio, Michigan, etc. I have the good fortune of being a Florida snowbird. Excuse me here. In 2015, purchased a condo in Sarasota, and I've been doing, well, actually since 2017, been doing the Florida QSO party. A couple things different here. First of all, a different car. A Prius is not what you usually think of for a mobile vehicle, but it's the car we have in Florida, and we make do. It's not the worst thing in the world. With this, I mean, worried about the electronics, noise, and all that. If parked and the car shut off, it's reasonably quiet. If the car is on, but the engine not running, or just the hybrid system going, there are some more birdies and so on. That does work out nice in that the hybrid system will keep the 12-volt system up to a semi-reasonable voltage charge and so on. And then after maybe half an hour or so of parked operating, the engine will actually start up, at which point you have yet another noise level. The one problem I do run into, if you're under heavy acceleration in this car, whether it's going from a stop to 50 miles an hour or trying to maintain 70 miles an hour going up a hill on Interstate 80 in Pennsylvania, the ignition noise is quite serious. But anyway, this shot is the south end of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. That's across the mouth of Tampa Bay. This location's in Manatee County, which typically is my opening location on the second day of the Florida QSO party. The water there is salt water, which is very nice to have. Any sideband to mobile is a challenging thing. You're not real loud, but this past year parked in this same spot on 20 meter sideband, pardon me, on 20 in the hour or so, they had like nearly 100 QSOs just on 20 sideband, plus some other bands as well. And then from there, I pack up, drive across, and actually in the Hillsborough County, which the county associate Tampa runs down the middle of Tampa Bay, the Pinellas County, which is a county with St. Petersburg's at north end. And through this, they have the North Fishing Pier State Park. They claim it's the longest fishing pier in the world. Actually, it was at one point was the road across Tampa Bay. Had a very tragic situation happen there in 1980. A ship got loose, ran into the bridge, and cars and actually a Greyhound bus were driving off the bridge. There were like 30 people killed there. in that incident. But anyway, they took the remains, and it's now the state park. So then, like I say, County 2 and County 3 on Sunday are likewise over saltwater, which is very nice. Florida has well, actually, they have a lot of mobile categories. They have single op without driver, single op with a driver, multi-op, multi-transit, whatever, and then phone, CW mixed mode. Out of this basic necessity, I do it without a driver, which brings a question. Now, it's doing it. Now, it's keeping in mind safety first. Now, you're driving around. Don't do crazy things in the name of radio contests. Keep safe. I operate as well parked as much as possible, and especially when they're in a new county, in other words, where you got the intense pile up, you want to concentrate. Be able to just concentrate on the radio, not on trying to drive. The one absolute law: absolutely do not attempt to keep a log while driving. Just record the audio and transcribe the log later. You have quite enough distraction as is. Well, it's not, in most cases, it's not too bad. Just pushing a button and listening. I sort of look at it as I'm keeping my visual stream focused on the highway, keeping my audio stream focused on the radio. But in any reason necessary, just pause for the least reason. There's a semi truck coming past you or whatever. You see a intersection up ahead, you're going through a town. Just stop operating. Probably most of these, when I'm driving, I get several times where I say I've called CQ. Somebody with a perfectly fine signal calls me, but then something comes up and I do not come back to them. It's not because I'm ignoring you, it's because I have more important things to do. Again, considering stopping shortly before you leave a county, especially if you're not operating while driving, because then you've got a half hour where people have filtered in, filtered out, and a new crowd to operate with. Anymore, I do not do any search and pounce while I'm driving. It's just, again, too distracting, tuning and so on. I just kind of keep the eyes focused and just kind of push buttons. And if someone calls me, I work them. Likewise, I am no longer don't do sideband operating while driving. Just the switch back and forth between CW and phone, and then also dealing with a foot switch on the floor. It's too much distracting to do safely. And obviously, you don't try operating when things get crowded or terribly crooked. I would contend that one can probably safely operate on this road and probably even chew gum at the same time. This is down in Glades or Highland County, South Central Florida. And this is actually a 4-lane road. The oncoming traffic is the opposite side of that grassy median strip. On the other hand, I think it doesn't take much imagination to figure you do not want to be operating on a road like this one. This is the mobile setup. Basically, when I stop, I put out a little piece of plywood that I put across the center console to the armrest, put the computer up there, and go operate. Sitting beside me now, here's that same shelf for the radio that I had showed you earlier. I've got the WinKey USB, so I've got 4 memory buttons on top of that. I can just reach down and push that. When I'm driving, I just take the wooden piece off, set the computer aside, and I just have a electrical box cover taped to the top of the console. The audio recorder with which I record the contest while I'm driving, and then the switch between 40 meters and 15 meters. I keep a full-time 20-meter antenna on the other input. Here's a breakdown of what I do while parked versus what I do with the driving part mixed in from the 19 Florida QSO party. So I did about 11 hours while parked, another 6-7 hours while driving. 1 hour plus when I'm driving through St. Petersburg and Tampa. I don't even think about trying to operate. I just turn the radio off and drive. And the other times are just shorter times when I'm passing through smaller towns or stopping for gas, occasionally running into a very bad stretch of power line noise where for 5 minutes you can't hear anybody, etc. A lot of contests, including Ohio and Pennsylvania, we have what's called the rover category, where basically you use temporary antennas, but they won't be ones that are not motion capable. So some may allow you to operate also while you're moving. Ohio does, Pennsylvania does not. You'll typically do fewer counties, but spend more time in each county, and you get much louder. Between the 40-meter ham stick and my 40-meter rover antenna, which I'll show you in a moment, the rover antenna is generally about 2 to 3 S units better, which makes a heck of a difference on sideband. And the rover category is a great option for someone who's going out solo without a driver, because you're going to stop and do a lot of your operating while stopped. A couple of rovers here. In the background is Ralph K8MR, who's a very active rover in the Ohio and Pennsylvania QSO parties. The rover in the foreground is just a curious local who stopped by to see what was going on, but he quickly got into the spirit of things and kind of understood what was going on, because he even helped out by improving ground conductivity. This is an early rover setup of mine. It's a DK9SQ fiberglass mast with a 40-20 dipole on a common feed line. It worked. It was not great. It took a while to set up. It would probably not do very well in a windstorm. But the more recent effort is what I call the 33-foot hamstick, basically a 33-foot wire being fed just like I'd feed any other mobile antenna off the car. The mouse is held up with a tripod. These are, each leg are a pair of the 4-foot aluminum military mast sections. The center casting is available from a place called Go Vertical USA, and the mast goes up there. Being quite thin, you need to wrap the wire around the mast a few times so then it comes off a lower point where the mast is going to be stronger. And you can feed it directly from the car like this. In other words, I say, having an older car, I don't feel bad about drilling holes in the lip there. The wire going off to the left there, that's a ground wire that goes up to the mag mount. If you wish, you can add a loading coil for 80 meters or whatever. You could probably try going to a 43-foot version, which might load better. But the whole thing, it's a very nice, simple antenna. By myself, with no help, I can have the thing set up in under 10 minutes. Tear down time is about 5 minutes. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time, and you can quickly make up by having a strong signal what you might have lost by the time spent setting up and tearing down. 2 mobile contesting seasons, the fall, which in my mind starts in a couple of weeks with Ohio and obviously these states, including California. Spring starts with Minnesota and kind of goes up through the 7QP and all those others the last weekend of, or toward the end of May. Minnesota kind of puzzles me why they do a contest in Minnesota in February, but I think maybe they just say, hey, Sven, we can get the other county, just drive across the frozen lake here and get to the other side. So how to win? Well, of course, the first thing, it's good contest operating skills, the main thing, but it gives you a good chance to play with it. To read the rules, that there are multipliers. Some have multipliers by band, by mode. A couple have multipliers by bands. There are bonus points for activating counties or working bonus stations. Typically, these are not a big issue, but if you want to pay attention, pay attention. Do move guys for new multipliers or just QSOs. Quite a few of my phone multipliers are when I work somebody on CW and say, hey, can we go to sideband? K through LR graciously allows me to use 114, 151 during the QSO party. So that's my usual 20-meter sideband frequency. I think OM2VL, who's a very serious participant in these from overseas, I believe must have his memory keyer programmed 5NNDXSSB ? And if I'm not driving, I generally can avail to work him and others. Efficient use of counties. If you have a real long county that you're going to be in for a long time, don't stop there to have lunch, but try to find a smaller county where you might have some time where extra time becomes useful. County line operation. Some parties allow operating county lines where you get the 2 QSOs for each person you work well on the county line, and conversely, the other person gets county line credit for 2 QSOs. Florida does allow these. We don't have them in Ohio, partly in my mind because most county lines are either down the middle of a road, or if they go across the road, typically it's about a 3-foot wide berm and drainage ditch right beside it, which does not make for suitable parking. Post your plans to the county hunter group. Lots of people are looking for counties. I suspect maybe by now California's worked out, but some of the other states with more rare counties, it's a good thing. And again, the county hunters are very good. They send their mobile reply cards where you just kind of sign them, fill them out, and sign them and send them back. It's really all you have to do. Some station considerations: operator comfort and safety. Like I say, from the safety point of view, it's largely just avoid extra flying objects. You don't want everything bouncing. You don't want to get by a bench or paddle flying through the air. Comfort kind of follows by itself. That I find the back of the minivan is actually quite a comfortable situation. The only issue that sometimes being in that position for a long time, you need to kind of try to move your legs once in a while. I occasionally see pictures of somebody who just like has a little laptop tray sitting on their lap with the laptop, which is not the best, but like I say, you got to do what you got to do. 12-volt radio power. Ideally, you come off the car battery with a good fusing it very close to the battery. If you're going to have a permanent installation, feeding it through the firewall into the main compartment's the way to go. It's a delicate operation. I've done it. It's not for the faint of heart. If you are going to try it, do disconnect the battery before you do it, just to minimize any possible damage if something did go wrong. Speaking of radio power, one other thing I typically do, I have along like an extra 26 amp hour sealed lead acid battery, which I have come somewhat close to radio, and just through a power pole splitter, parallel that as another power source, just to kind of add to the battery capacity and give an alternate source without the IR drop in the power cable. Computer power needs to be considered. That is more of an issue back in the days with computers that took more power. My current one actually run probably 6 or 7 hours on a full charge. And all I do now is just have a good quality, a pure sine wave inverter, and use the regular computer power supply to charge that up, which again does not have to run full time, but compared to the other noise coming from the car, it's negligible. Computer visibility, sunlight shining in the windows in the daytime can make it hard to see the computer, so figure out what you might need to do to deal with that. Likewise, at night, you'll need some light. I start with a little gooseneck USB LED, which kind of lights the keyboard, but if you have to punch buttons on the radio, you need more light than that. So generally, I just use the reading lamp in the back, which has been sufficient, but keep in mind in case that doesn't work out in your situation. Noise canceling headphones are a very useful thing to have. You do get a lot of noise, especially the low frequency tire noise and so on. One interesting story I ran into here a while back was we'd stop someplace and whatever, and the driver gets out, closes the door, slams the door, front door, and see getting out, and I say, "Oh crap, I have a loose connection here. What's going on?" He wiggle wires and whatever, and okay, nothing wiggled. And he gets back in, slams the door. Oh damn, another loose wire. And about the third time, he realized, oh wait, it's just the noise canceling headphones canceling the noise of the slamming door. Nothing's wrong. Antennas, ham sticks versus screwdriver. It's really, in my mind, not a hard choice, especially starting out the screwdriver. That's really a big, expensive antenna, which really requires a permanent installation. But I like the ham sticks in that it's very quick to QSY. You don't have to sit there and wait for something to go cranking around to get your SWR down. And most modern radios will handle enough of a mismatch to get power into your antenna, even if the SWR is somewhat on the high side. With a collection of ham sticks, I get a piece of 1.5 inch PVC, which nicely fits them all in. I do carry a small screwdriver around just to have it handy to tighten the things down when I set it up. With the ham sticks, sometimes you'll need to add some loading. For instance, the 80 meter ham stick is not really an 80 meter, it's a 75 meter version. So you need to add some top loading. What I do, I just get a piece of stiff wire, replace one of the set screws with a regular machine screw and a wing nut to tighten down the loading. You'll want to get a carrying case to carry all these various mobile supplies, just to have them with you and so on. And again, by keeping them ready, if you came in an emergency situation where you had to pack up and move quickly, there you're all set. Join the party from home. If it wasn't for you folks at home, there wouldn't be many people for us mobiles to talk to. So we do appreciate you getting on. Even if it's just maybe an hour or so, and you might be working mostly just the Sirius fixed stations, but having somebody to talk to makes an event a lot nicer, which I'm sure you people from California can attest to as well. Do get the county map. Like I showed you, that the Census Bureau maps is a very handy thing to have. Again, you can kind of keep track of what the counties are in the state you're working. And call CQ, even if you're out of state. A lot of the state operators, we have a lot of people who are not real experienced contesters. They may not have really great stations, and especially say up to 20 meters in Ohio. It's kind of intimidating with a inexperienced guy with a low station to call CQ, and they tend not to do it. But if you can put a good signal in there, call CQ from California when the band is open, CQ Ohio, looking for people in Ohio from K6XYZ in California. It can be quite productive. I know for many years, N4PN down in Georgia, now Silent Key, really made great hay with, of course, he had that old Southern Georgia drawl that was kind of unique, but we just call CQ Ohio or whatever state, and we're quite a few people on sideband. CW not quite as important, but it still can be useful on CW as well. That doesn't come often, but if you hear a mobile calling you, don't make them wait. Every once in a while, I will get on, call somebody, and the guy will come back. Oh, the mobile station just stand by now. WB3ABC. Hi there, Joe. How you doing? Good. And whatever. At which point, mobiles don't have all day to wait, and they're going to be gone, even if they are in a rare county you might well need. So, and I say, getting out to see the sights is part of the joy. I just love this photo. It's just a beautiful blue sky in the clouds, and one of my favorite parking spots in the Florida QSO Party. It's the county line between Hendry and Collier counties, Hendry being a pretty rare county, Collier a moderately rare county, and it's a nice pull-off place beside the road. But I say, just getting out away from the hustle bustle of the city and so on, it's just delightful. Any idea where this nice placid location might be? Anybody? Oh, well, not to keep you waiting. This is in New York County, New York, a place better known as Manhattan. As I mentioned, I have a daughter who lives in northern New Jersey. One year I said, oh, let's just go out and spend half a day driving around New York and the New York QSO Party, and found this location, Fort Tryon Park, on the very far upper west side of Manhattan, overlooking the Hudson River. And a nice peaceful looking spot, even if it is Manhattan. You get to see all kinds of strange sights. With me here, this is John, ACAD, who's driven with me also a number of times. John, and when I was back in Ohio for sweepstakes, would be one of my stops on my 6-hour multi-station sweepstakes tour. In the background, it's a strip mining museum or coal mining museum. That's an old strip line bucket from in Southeast Ohio. When you know you're out in the country, when you come by and run in the buggies and complete a little load of previous buggy debris from on the other side of the road. The horse is not wearing a mobile power supply, so he was not in the contest. This was not the Wyoming QSO Party, but somewhere down Southeast Ohio. I don't know how the buffaloes got there. I think they're buffaloes, but anyway. In the early days when we had to stop to change antennas, we pull up along the side one day, and guess this herd of cows decided it was feeding time. And if you look carefully, there's actually these cows are kind of galloping over toward us to see what's going on. Old number 1 of 3 here wins the award for all time most interested observer non-human category. I don't know what this merry-go-round is doing out in the middle of nowhere, but there it was. And we once upon a time ran in Grayling, Michigan, ran into a combination of tanks, low-flying fighter planes, and missiles. There's a nearby National Guard base, which I guess was the reason for all that display. Now, a word from the sponsors. Ohio QSO Party coming 2 weeks from this weekend. It's the 4th Saturday of August. So August 28th, it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific time. It's a simple exchange, a SIM report in your QTH, which will be California or our county. Full rolls at ohqp.org. And I hope we'll have lots of California people on chasing us around Ohio and passing lots of California QSOs. Anyway, I hope this is useful, enjoyable, and hope you all have a nice day. Back to Dean.
Thank you, Jim. Terrific job. Thanks so much for the presentation. I'm going to show one slide, and then we're going to open it up for Q&A for Jim from the rest of the audience here. Let me share my screen quickly and give a bit of a California perspective. Okay. All right, hopefully everyone is seeing that. This I wanted to show from K6AQL's perspective, what he did last year. Jim talked a little bit about route maps and making sure that you're not stuck driving in canyons for hours and not making any cues. And K6AQL last year went through 22 counties. The first day he went from LA all the way up to Glen and Colusa. Usually that's his stopping point for the evening. And then the next morning, he will continue down and end in San Luis Obispo County. Going back to the idea of terrain and what you're driving through and making sure that your time driving through counties is efficient. I included this map of California over on the right. And green is flat, brown is not flat. And you can see there's a remarkable correlation between where K6AQL drives and flat terrain and not getting stuck in all these mountains. You can see some of the highways that traverse California. Red, for example, is I-5, going all the way up through all of that green. Here's 99 going up. Here's 101. So there are certainly some opportunities that I bet K6AQL uses as he goes through 22 counties. He told me that his strategy is to spend about an hour in every county, plus or minus. In some counties, he'll stop at a rest stop and operate. Because if he keeps driving, then he'll fly through some of the counties the way the highways are. But typically that's what he does. Monterey, he'll operate a little bit more from looking at his log. Colusa, he'll operate more because that's where he starts his morning on Sunday. But this is a really good example of how to make mobile work in California, given the terrain we have. With that, I want to open it up for Q&A for Jim, and I'm going to bring up Jim's presentation again, and I want to ask Jim the first question that I have.
QRV.
Okay, so Jim, you mentioned good roads and bad roads, and seeing this picture on the left made me think of a drive that I took yesterday. Actually, I was on California Highway 152 yesterday, driving from the Bay Area to the Central Valley. And it's rural terrain, just like this, but there are miles and miles and miles of power lines that traverse the highway parallel to the highway. And I'm wondering, what has been your experience on a road like this? Have you had issues with power lines like this, or is it just one power line, you drive up to it and you pass it and it's not really a problem?
I assume you're talking about power line noise. Most of the time it's kind of a one location where within half a mile either way it could be bad. There are some sections I know in Florida, up in, I think, Lake County or whatever, kind of up north of Orlando, there's some sections where I've gone through for 10 miles or so saying goddamn power line noise and so on. But like I say, your mileage may vary. There are some that are good, some that are bad. It's something kind of deal with. And like I say, there are times when I run into the noise. So do I just stop operating at all, or do you keep calling CQ and hope somebody who's really loud can break through the noise? And otherwise people probably think I'm an alligator, which at that point in time I am. Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of alligators, I became, I guess, an official Florida QSO Party person this past spring, driving through, I think it was Hendry County in South Florida. My first ever alongside the road alligator roadkill.
All right, let's open it up for Q&A for Jim. Who has some other questions for Jim today?
I have a comment. W6GJB has developed a really nice jack to raise the sections through that triangle base that you've used. Mm-hmm. And you can see that stuff on my website. There are two listings there. One talks specifically about 7QP, and that's the slide deck. The other one is Glenn's complete description about how to do this stuff, and it's a lot of really good ideas. Glenn is a mechanical engineer, aeronautical engineer, so he's quite inventive. So those two presentations, they're both slide decks, are very well worth looking at.
Yeah, okay. Like I say, in my case, it's just the push-up mass. So actually what I will do is I will feed the wire down through the top of the mount there, so that when the mast pulls up, then the wire comes up outside of the mast. But like I say, just kind of push and twist, and finally you get done. And like I say, while starting out, you keep twisting going around there, just keep the wires twisted around, so for mechanical reasons.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I think we'd definitely be interested in linking to those presentations from cqp.org. They sound like terrific resources.
Say, Dean, maybe Jim has a response.
I'm sorry, what?
Go ahead, Don.
Oh yeah, say gentlemen, hi, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm tuned in a little bit late. I apologize. A question for Jim K8MR. Again, I tuned in just a little bit late. Jim, is there a QRP category in the Ohio contest, and any specific rules you want me to know about the QRP? Go ahead, Jim. It might be challenging, of course, from California. What do you think? Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have a, QRP category for fixed stations. There's not a QRP mobile category. That'd be total masochism. But yeah, we do. And I say it's the same as any other thing. There's work as many people, as many counties as you can. And with phone and CW counting separate multipliers and separate QSOs, we do not have a digital category.
Okay, very well. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay, hope to catch you then.
Yeah, for sure. Good presentation. Thank you.
All right.
How much power do you typically run?
100 watts. Sometimes especially like if I'm parked and notice the battery's running down, I'll kind of crank it back to about 60 watts just to keep the battery going a little longer. Especially in the Prius, the Prius 12-volt battery, it's one of the smallest car batteries you'll see. I think it's like a 45 amp hour or something like that. But as I say, the hybrid system will charge that battery without the engine running. So the car on it still comes out being quite usable, but it's 100 watts.
K6ST has a question, Jim.
Yes.
How do you, let's talk about the human side. So how do you deal with when you're tired or fatigued? When do you stop and or sleep particularly if you're by yourself? And just how do you do all that non-operating stuff when you're piloting along down the road and contesting?
Well, first of all, the contests typically run till noon to midnight, or actually Florida is where I do the drive along. The Ohio ones, I always have a driver. So it ends at 10 o'clock Saturday night, and then it starts 8 o'clock next morning. And I'm have a route where I'm able to get back home to spend the night there. So the sleep deprivation is not a major issue. And so like I say, when you're running 100 an hour while going down there, it keeps you awake. If that answers your question.
Yeah, what do you do for bio breaks or food or?
Well, every once in a while I stop and go to the bathroom. There are a couple rest stops along the way. And again, like I say, as the single op thing or the solo driving myself, I know that, for instance, I was mentioning the start where I go by the saltwater stuff, and I drive through Tampa. And then as soon as you get out of the Tampa area, like about 2 miles in the next county, which is Pasco County, I know there's a rest stop, which I stop there. I take a water break and so on and so forth. And I get back in the car and pull out the computer and start running Pasco County while parked.
Cool, thank you.
Have you ever run down your battery?
Actually, we did once. It was in Pennsylvania. And fortunately, I mentioned that those sealed lead acid batteries, I have one now, but actually I had a couple of them, some old UPS pools. Had been driving around. The driver had his headlights on as daytime safety, whatever. We parked. He forgot to turn them off. And when it came time to start the car up, it kind of went, whoa, 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 whoa. But fortunately, I had the battery in about 10 minutes of kind of giving a few hints from the SLAs that we had. It started up and we made the rest of the way. And after that, when it stopped, we kept the engine running.
Do you ever attract any unwanted attention from law enforcement or, just other people?
Yeah, we attract attention. And like I say, for the casual people, it's a ham radio road rally is the quick 5-word explanation. Have never run into anybody really testy about it that I can think of. Actually, the potentially biggest problem you have, or if you stop at some of these places out in the middle of nowhere, some years back, I recall with WDRZ, my buddy, we pulled off the side of the road down in Southeast Ohio. It's backed into someone's driveway, and we're kind of there operating whatever. And this guy who's missing about 6 teeth comes out and made clear he didn't appreciate us being there. So we promptly left, and he probably figured we were narcs or something looking for his meth mill. One thing I do, though, if I am parking alongside the road, I try to back into the parking spot. So A, I'm not looking at somebody's house while I'm parked there. And B, if I have some reason to leave, I can say, yes, sir, I'm out of here quite quickly, and sit around dilly-dallying while pulling out.
About severe weather or lightning, any of that funny stuff you guys get? Tornadoes, hurricanes?
Never really run anything that I can really remember standing out while mobiling, no.
You figure out how many miles you've gone over mobile so far?
Well, let's see here. In Ohio, we probably do 400 to 500 miles on a trip. I think Florida, we put it maybe a little bit more than that, although our route typically ends around Orlando, at which point it's another 120 miles back to Sarasota, where we live, although it's at 6 o'clock in the evening, so it's not like we're staying up great late at night and so on. Actually, what I've developed a new, I guess, operating strategy or whatever, or driver recruitment technique. I'm a bike rider, and I've got a couple friends who are bike riders in Ohio last year, and we're planning to do it again this year. Do about 28 counties, basically leave my house with a bike riding buddy of mine. We have been down near the Dayton area. And then Sunday, we have our bikes, we hop out and go for about a 50 or 60 mile ride, and some of the interesting bike paths out there we would never have a reason to make the trip for otherwise. So it's so like I say, we combine 2 for 1, 2 for trips. More questions?
Hello there.
Comment, observation. Jim, you've probably seen this is Don. They have the ARRL has a nice placard. It's magnetic. It'll stick to the side of your car if you were ever in, just so people were aware you were amateur radio. They have those placards available. Sometimes you find them for free at the flea markets and stuff.
Yeah, that's I thought. Once in a while, I've had people ask me for out tracking moose or something like that, but I say people will understand and so on and so forth. So,
yeah.
What do you, when you're mobile and you go from one county or one region to another, whatever it is, how do you keep track to know, not on the log, but how do you know in your brain, oh, I got to give this exchange because I'm in a different region or county?
Okay, what I'll do, I'll just send over the air 15M or something like that. And there's when I've changed bands. And of course, if I have a driver, I just bring up N1MM, type Control H for the new county and enter the county and keep going. Something like, say, with the principle, I don't want to try to run really hot, huge pileups while I'm driving. Quite often, if I get to a new county, and again, when I'm doing the Florida driving by myself, I will either stop operating when I get to the new county, or I might do something like go to 15 meters where essentially nobody's hearing me anyway. And then once I get stopped and located, get the computer set up, then I go to town running the pileups.
One thing I found interesting, Jim, that you reminded us all is that mobile can be with someone else driving and you operating the whole time as a 2-person tag team, or it could be you driving somewhere, stopping, setting up something quick next to your car, operating, then leaving, then driving to the next spot, then doing the same thing.
Yep, absolutely. Like I say, I'm not sure what California has as far as rules. I've never had the situation to worry about it, but like I say, in Ohio, that's what we call the rover category. And it's, like I say, it's a very interesting, worthwhile category. And like I say, especially it's helpful for the phone guys that, as I say, mobile operation with a phone station, you're pretty weak and it's frustrating, but get a full size antenna and you're become a legitimate signal, and much easier to make phone QSOs that way.
All right, folks, any other last questions for Jim? Thanks again, Jim. Terrific job.
Okay, well,
And,
glad to hope to work with lots of guys in the Ohio QSO party, and hopefully I'll be working lots of people in the California QSO party as well. And like I say, an added bonus feature, I expect to be out in the Pennsylvania QSO party, which is the weekend after the California QSO party. And as I mentioned, Pennsylvania's a 2-day contest, which I think it's more than they need to have. But last year we did the operate on Saturday and ride the bikes on Sunday, which worked out very well. And as long as we're not faced with a hurricane, the remnants passing over us on Sunday, hope to do that again this year. Okay, thanks. 73 all, and see ya.
Thanks, Jim. Terrific job.